Good evening, Biology 20 students. Mrs. McDonald here. This is a screencast meant to teach you a little bit about the light reactions of photosynthesis. So hopefully we've talked about the light reactions in general, and just a reminder that the light reactions occur in the chloroplast on the thylakoid membrane. So this is a picture of the chloroplast, and this tiny little square here is the thylakoid. And of course, here's the thylakoid membrane. It looks just like any other cell membrane with proteins embedded in the double or the bilipid membrane. So on the inside is the thylakoid space, so that's inside this little green disc, and on the outside is what we call the stroma. And notice how it says here there's a low hydrogen ion concentration. And we'll talk about where those hydrogen ions come from. So what happens first is in the light reactions on the thylakoid membrane, this system is set up. And of course, there's many thylakoid membranes and there's many systems set up on each thylakoid membrane. So the green color, of course, is because of chlorophyll. And the chlorophyll can be found in the two photosystems. In general, we'll just talk about the the non-cyclic reactions. So there's photosystem 2, or P680, which will absorb wavelengths around 680 nanometers. And then there's photosystem 1, or P700. So what happens in the photosystems? It all starts with light, of course. So see these green dots here? These are chlorophyll molecules or other accessory pigments. This dark green dot is meant to represent the reaction center, which is a chlorophyll A or B molecule. So all of these accessory pigments attract or absorb the light energy from the sun and transfer all of that energy to the photosystem. And this photosystem has an electron on it, and the energy is transferred into that electron, which gives it a boost, gives it a bunch of energy so that it can go down an electron transport chain. Where did that electron come from? It came from this water molecule. So all the water that the plant absorbs through its roots goes into the thylakoid space, and water is broken down in a system or a process called photolysis. Photo meaning light, right? And lysis meaning to cut. So this water molecule is split by light. Now a hydrogen ion is released into the thylakoid space. It just stays where it is basically, right? And then the oxygen is released out into the atmosphere. It just will diffuse naturally into the atmosphere and be lost as a waste gas by the plant. And then the electron goes to the reaction center, where it gets energized again. It has lots of energy to go down the electron transport system. So this electron transport system after photosystem 2 is right in this area here. And what does it do? It pulls in more hydrogen ions, right? We want lots of hydrogen ions on the inside of the thylakoid and not so many on the outside. And the reason why? Because we have a concentration gradient set up now. And that is stored energy. So all of these hydrogen ions on the inside in the thylakoid space, they want to get out, and they're not allowed out because the membrane is impermeable. But they can get out through this molecule here, this enzyme called ATP synthase. And for every 3 that pass through ATP synthase, 1 ATP is made. So all that stored energy from being pent up inside the thylakoid space is released as the hydrogen ions travel through. It provides the energy to join the phosphate molecule to the ADP molecule, creating ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. And this is a high energy storage molecule that will be used in the Calvin cycle or the light independent reactions. Okay, so that's photosystem 1. Photosystem 2, or sorry, that's it for photosystem 2. Photosystem 1 now. Something similar is going to happen here as in photosystem 2. So all these little green dots are accessory pigments. The electron, having traveled through the first electron transport system, used all of its energy to bring in hydrogen. Now it doesn't have as much energy. But the light that's absorbed from the accessory pigments and passed on to the reaction center gives it an energy boost again. So now this electron has more energy, and it's allowed to pass through another electron transport chain, which is located right in this area. In this electron transport chain, the energy is now used to join NADP to hydrogen, creating another high energy molecule called NADPH. And this high energy molecule will also be used in the Calvin cycle. And the Calvin cycle, we'll learn later, is the reactions of photosynthesis that create sugar. So it's the second part of the reaction. So that is it for the light reactions of photosynthesis. And of course, I'm assuming that you knew a little bit about electron transport chains. And it really just involves a lot of memorization. So here is a YouTube animation. I've cut off the sound, but I just basically showing you, hopefully it's going to show you the basics. So photosystem 2, light hit the reaction center. There was an electron from hydrogen, allowed the electron to pass through this electron transport chain, bringing in hydrogen. There it goes. Okay, bringing in hydrogen, and notice there's a high concentration of hydrogen ions on the inside in the thylakoid space, and in the stroma there's a low concentration. So the electron now has lost energy, so it will be passed along to photosystem 1 after going through this first electron transport system. And that's showing you the source of those electrons. Okay. And in photosystem 1, light energy should energize the reaction center. Okay, now the animation is showing you how the hydrogens are passing through ATP synthase, and this is facilitating the reaction where ADP is joined to an inorganic phosphate and ATP is formed. Remember that for every 3 hydrogens that pass through, 1 ATP is formed. Okay, and it's not going to show you photosystem 2, I guess, or photosystem 1. But in photosystem 1, remember, the electron was energized, and the electrons are the original ones from water. They were energized, and they went through this electron transport system to produce NADPH, which is a high energy molecule that can be used in the Calvin cycle. All right, so if I remembered, you've got a set of questions that you can answer based on the screencast, and we will talk more about this tomorrow. So please answer the questions, go over the screencast as many times as you need to remember all of the steps that happen. And in fact, tomorrow we will be making a step-by-step list. But if you could do anything before that, that would be great. So I hope you enjoyed your screencast, and I will see you next class.